What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. After talking about the AGM yesterday, trying to shield the division between those who are asking for independence and those who are pushing for independence while working alongside the UCP, as APP has preferred that we move forward, it's time to discuss what actually went down at the AGM, because this wasn't just about talking about independence. It wasn't just talking about the MOU. We kind of touched base yesterday on a few things Danielle had mentioned during her keynote speech, things like castle law, things like protecting our children's rights within Alberta. A lot of things were voted on. And when we talk about mandates, when we talk about why independence wasn't being discussed, I want to shed some light on that, because when you look at the list of things that were voted on and discussed, I personally feel, and this is just my opinion, that if independence were brought into this voting process, it would be nothing more than the 50th line of things we were going to talk about, and the focus wouldn't be driven on it. I think that if we're ever to vote on it for a mandate, it should be done in a referendum so that the vote is clear. Keep in mind, there was only about 4,500 members of the United Conservative Party in attendance at this event. With that said, I want to shed some light onto folks who are kind of sitting right now saying, hey, Fringe, you're making excuses for Danielle. You're making excuses for the Conservative Party. I've been struggling for a few videos to kind of find a middle ground so that everybody understands that this is not making excuses for the Premier. I'm pro-Alberta. I want Alberta to succeed if the independence vote possibly fails. Mike Freedom Honey sums it up very well, and I wanted to shed light on this. We had Mike on the show last Wednesday for Unhinged Fringe. We'll probably have him on again. Mike's a fantastic friend of mine as well as a guest. Let's take a look at what he had to say, and hopefully this sheds some light on those whose emotions are boiling over, whose tempers are at the climbing point. The AGM, the independence movement, and avoiding a self-inflicted disaster. Sun Tzu said it best: victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. The recent MOU was essentially a non-binding nothing burger, I agree, highlighting deep divisions in our country and how easily people can be swayed by empty promises. It's clear we'll never build a pipeline to the coast. Look at the Coastal GasLink protests and ongoing land title disputes with Indigenous bands in BC as proof. Our weak federal government won't force it through, even under a national emergency. Meanwhile, the carbon sequestration plan will result in Alberta's products less appealing to foreign markets, enriching companies like Brookfield at our expense while we foot the bill. But let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. I support a free and independent Alberta, but rushing into infighting within the Conservative ranks could fracture us and jeopardize our Premier, who at this point has enabled the possibility of a referendum. She's also putting through a lot of things that we're going to discuss in this video that show how she's laying the foundation for independence within Alberta. And that I personally feel, again, after our meeting, after the discussions I've had with her, that she believes in an independent Alberta, but has to talk the talk while in the position of a Premier with a mandate. Triggering a referendum now would likely fail, as many Albertans still cling to hope in Confederation or believe the Conservative Party of Canada can save the country. Sadly, I doubt that's possible, and our path to prosperity lies in separation. That being said, true support for independence must grow organically. People who won't embrace it if it's forced, they need to see the rewards outweigh the risks. The juice is worth the squeeze. Right now, too many are comfortable with the status quo, unaware of how an inept federal government is squandering our resources on foreign wars and manufactured trade disputes that only benefit entities like Brookfield. To maintain momentum, we must unite, not divide, along the UCP or independent lines. The province needs more time to feel the pain of Ottawa's failures, combined with education and honest discussions. As conditions worsen, more will flock to our cause, recognizing the hard work of creating a new country as a worthwhile gamble for a better future. If we fail, so be it, but success demands patience and solidarity. For now, that requires supporting the current leadership while exposing federal incompetence. The Liberals and NDP will self-destruct if we stay focused. Stop the internal attacks. Keep our eyes on the prize. Spread the word calmly and let the movement grow. People will ultimately choose an independent Alberta or remain under the thumb of the Dominion of Brookfield. Everyone chill out. Unity is our strength. Now, that sums up exactly how I feel on this channel to a nutshell. And this is what I got to hand it to Mike. He's very good at putting words together. This is why not only is he a very close friend, but somebody I highly respect. I would recommend checking out Freedom Honey Podcast on X if you're on there. This is where we need to focus. So it's not making excuses for Danielle. It's we need to be prepared if we want to win this battle of independence. It's not pro-Danielle, it's pro-Alberta. How do we get there? And how do we secure ourselves should we fail? Even as Mike says, if we fail, we fail. But we do it properly. Berta Proud Dad, who was at the UCP AGM as well, had a very good message alongside Mike's. And I'm going to play that clip for you. Then we're going to get into the receipts of why I feel it was beneficial independence was not discussed at the AGM. Let's take a listen to what Berta Proud Dad has to say.
You know what we learned this weekend? When Conservatives are divided in Alberta, we lose every single time. Right now, we've actually got momentum. We've got a premier pushing back on Ottawa, refusing to enforce bad federal gun laws and talking about protecting your right to defend your home. That's the direction Alberta First people have been demanding for years. So this is not the time to start tearing each other apart. Whether you're Alberta First, full-on separatist, or just a fed-up conservative who wants Ottawa out of our lives, one thing is crystal clear. A split movement hands the province right back to the people who hate our values. We can debate strategy, we can argue details, but at the end of the day, we either stand together or we hand the win to the other side. Unity doesn't mean we all agree on everything. It means we agree on one thing. Alberta comes first, and we're not going to burn down our own house while we finally have someone fighting for us. My name is Berta Proud Dad. Wear it with me. Unapologetically conservative. Get yours. BertaProudDad.com.
Now, usually I don't let people self-promote on the channel, but Berta Proud Dad does everything out of his garage. He does a great job on what he has. So go check him out, follow him on X, or order some of the unapologetically conservative gear that he's got. It's very fashionable, really nice. Man, that shirt is very hypnotizing on this video, but he has a point. Let's not burn down our own house while trying to get to independence. We have to stay, cooler heads will prevail. Remember, folks, I always tell my kids, you know, if you got off a sinking ship in the ocean, flapping your arms and panicking just means you're going to drown. We have to remain calm, assess, and move forward to be successful. That being said, I hope the point is clear. I probably won't have any more videos trying to explain this because then it's going to get to the point where I'm ramming it down people's throats. That's what she said. But let's get into what happened. Let's get into what happened at the AGM. Why I feel it wasn't necessary to talk about independence. Now, Brittany, if you guys don't know Brittany, again, Brittany's got a really large following on X. I actually ran into Brittany at the AGM. We had a good discussion. These are a lot of the votes that went through for policy and legislation that the UCP wanted to build forward. A lot of people said, hey, Fringe, what about the RCMP? What about an Alberta pension plan? What about all these other things Danielle said she was going to do and never was going to do? Well, this is why it's a member-driven event. All of those things have been passed, and all of those things are now officially moving forward. They have a yes-no vote at the AGMs. The members drive those votes. They give the mandate to the Conservatives that, hey, our members have told us what they want, what they prefer. There's a long list here, folks. I have to go down and scroll through all my bookmarks from Brittany because I'd have a million tabs open. Let's try and break it down as quickly as we can. Resolution number 10. UCP members are happy about this one. Oppose the federal expansion of MAID qualifying criteria to include those suffering solely from mental illness and oppose the future legalization of MAID as a care option for minor children. Establish protocols for provincial implementation of the federally legalized MAID program wherein healthcare workers in any facility shall not be allowed to present or promote it to a patient as a care option. So just like we saw happening to our veterans in Nova Scotia, that's out the window. The procedure must be considered a tragic last resort and only be discussed with a patient of legal age upon request by said patient or their proxy. Individual healthcare workers and private hospice facilities must have their rights to freedom of conscience honored when deciding to participate in administering MAID. Isn't that amazing? We're going to go through so many of these that show you why Danielle is working for us, how she's continuously laying the groundwork for not only sovereignty, but for us to move forward protected in independence before we even write our own constitution. No-fault insurance in Alberta has been defeated. This is good for our rates. Rates have been skyrocketing over the last few years, so that's been nullified and shut down. Vote yes, only official government flags to be flown on Alberta government property. Yes vote goes through. Ensure access to provincially funded healthcare and social benefits for Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and only recognized refugees. Yes to requiring that all third-party resource materials related to gender identity, sexual orientation, or human sexuality being used in an Alberta school to be pre-approved by the Ministry of Education and be made available to parents of that school upon request. So they can't sneak anything in anymore. Yes, oppose all attempts by the federal government to impose a requirement that all new car and truck sales be net zero emissions by 2035. The electric vehicle mandate, squashed in Alberta. Yes vote goes through. Support, invest, and advocate for new oil and natural gas pipelines to the West Coast, far north, and eastern Canada. So again, that one's kind of always been in place, but it got the yes vote anyways. Yes vote, protecting public safety is a primary responsibility of government, namely by reducing crime and defending the rights of its citizen against those who would infringe upon them. That gets into a lot of the firearms laws as well as the RCMP. So stay tuned for that one. We're going to get to it. This is one that's critical. Count happening. Improve the protection of Albertans by increasing the legal capacity for each citizen to protect self, family, and property. Wording legal capacity has made some uncertain. This vote passed by like 50-something%. So again, when you look at, should we move forward on independence? Protecting ourselves from home invasion got over the line. It just got over the line. And when you mix in everything we're talking about here, had they have said move forward on independence, how do you think it would have, the weight of that would have moved forward? I've never been to an AGM, but I'm starting to understand why they have said it needs to be focused elsewhere. Again, not making excuses. It's just starting to make sense as we discuss all this. But it did pass. As again, I bookmarked this when Brittany said the count was happening. It passed by about 52%. Yes vote went through. Abandon and rescind net zero laws, regulations, policies, and agreements. I don't know what that means for the MOU, but I'm on board. Yes, promote responsible fiscal management, protection of individual freedoms, and support policies that strengthen families and communities across the province. Yes vote. Defend Alberta's economy and autonomy by opposing all attempts by the federal government to regulate or legislate on industrial carbon emissions within Alberta's boundaries. Again, this is all putting building blocks in place because we haven't committed to that MOU. It's just a worthless piece of paper. When the Carney government comes back in April and says we haven't moved forward on that pipeline, where's your industrial carbon tax? These things are in place now and mandated by Alberta citizens and members of the UCP. Yes, vote goes through. Advocate for provincial jurisdiction over the ownership and use of firearms with the understanding that property is an unalienable right. Where else in the country are you getting this kind of fight from your premier? Yes, permit the use of clean coal in Alberta as a source of electricity. No more woke shit. Yes, strengthen landowner authority in contract conflicts with renters by prohibiting adverse possession claims or squatter rights, and streamlining the process for landlords to regain possession of their property in cases of lease violations or unauthorized occupation. That's big, especially when you look at immigration, and we get to that. Yes, negotiate with the federal government to create an accord with Alberta that grants our province as great or greater control over immigration as the province of Quebec, including total numbers of temporary and permanent residents, and achieve participation in the selection and rejection of those being granted temporary or permanent settlement rights in Alberta through the immigration process. That is a huge one, folks. Danielle, people always say she talked about doubling Alberta's population. She's putting a cork in it. Yes vote passes. Allow students to be advanced only to the next grade level or course in accordance with academic skill proficiency for assigned content in all grades. No more free pass. Yes vote goes through. Should review the use of diversity, equity, inclusion, or DEI programs, policies, and consultants in Alberta's K-12 education system to ensure instructional practices remain politically neutral, inclusive, and focused on academic excellence. So no more woke nonsense. You have to be focused on academics. Yes, passes. Adopt healthcare improvements by implementing all recommendations from the January 2025 Alberta Pandemic Data Review Task Force report. And also, 1. Prohibit jabs from being used as a condition of employment or membership in any provincially funded institution, organization, ministry, agency, professional association, or regulatory bodies governed by provincial legislation. 2. Educate the public about jab injuries attributed to the COOF, and provide physicians with the province with peer-reviewed preventative and detoxing protocols that have been published since these were administered to the public at large. And 3, ensure equal access to healthcare for all Albertans, regardless of whether they've been jabbed or whether they're physical or genetic status. That's a huge win. So the government, healthcare system, all of it, they can't tell you, if you don't have this, you can't work here. It also recognizes that we need to move forward as a province and get away from these draconian measures. You can see the no's in there versus the crowd of yeses. And this is why people were saying again, what happens when the tickets are affordable? Why do the tickets go up so much closer to the event? You can see the empty seats in this area. These are the ones that are bussed in, or those who feel opposite, but the majority of the no's that come through are those who don't share conservative values. Brittany says, yes, passes, affirm that parents will receive full disclosure of their children's participation in school-facilitated extracurricular groups. No more secret clubs. No more information hidden from parents. Yes, stand against any federal legislation, laws, or acts of infringement that will impede or impose limitations in any way on Albertan civil rights to freedom and prosperity. Yes vote passes. Work with Alberta post-secondary institutions to limit international student intake so as to ensure eligible Albertan students get first priority for spaces, and secondly, eligible Canadian students from other provinces with eligibility based on the minimum requirements of the program of study. Yes vote passes. Provide intergovernmental advocacy to ensure that lab-grown meat will not be sold in Alberta, at least, at the minimum, without proper identification and clear labeling. The cloned meat facade was squashed because they said, well, people just aren't buying it. They don't want it. They don't agree with it. There haven't been studies that tell you if this is even safe for consumption. Alberta says, nope, you have to tell people what they're buying. You can't just throw it in under the radar. Brittany says, yes, a vote passes. Amend Alberta Land Stewardship Act to increase landowner private property rights. I'm sorry, my dyslexia. Brittany, again, yes passes. Encampments, tents, makeshift shelters within city and town limits create significant health and safety risks for both vulnerable individuals and the broader community. Law enforcement should be supported in upholding existing laws while ensuring that individuals in need are directed toward rehabilitation, treatment, and safe housing options. No individual should be permitted to erect or occupy unsafe shelters in public spaces, as this poses risks to themselves and others. So they're clamping down on tent cities. And they're going to get them into safe housing options. Cleaner streets, folks. Yes vote passed. Defend Alberta's freedom of assembly by declaring all places of worship and their outreach as essential services. So you don't have any situations in the future like Art Pulowski, who was arrested for holding a service during lockdowns. Yes vote passes. End the practice of community water fluoridation. This was a huge win. Brittany says, yes passes. Cease public funding for third trimester susmortions. Except, and I have to say that because of censorship, except in cases where the physical health of the mother is at serious risk. Yes vote passes. Defend and protect Alberta's major employers by opposing the federal government legislation and regulation to limit what energy companies can say about their emissions, environmental performance, and climate goals. Yes passes. Provide intergovernmental advocacy to ensure that jab products are not being injected into our livestock or food sources in Alberta. Passed vote, purchase the assets and operations of the RCMP division to create an Alberta police force that would replace services currently offered by the RCMP. So there you go, that's been passed. Yes vote passes. Require all associations and societies that directly or indirectly receive revenue from public funding to publicly disclose their financial records. Yes vote passes. Replace the Canada Pension Plan with an Alberta Pension Plan that guarantees Alberta seniors the same or better benefits than the Canada Pension Plan, while also reducing contributions paid by Albertans. So all the people that get your hands off my Canada Pension Plan, you're either getting the same or better, and you've reduced your contributions. How is that a loss? That's a win. Begin the process of creating the policy framework and infrastructure for an Alberta pension plan while the issue of replacing CPP is resolved. Yes vote passes. Look at all those Greens in the crowd. Pass legislation to amend the current oaths of office for all elected officials in the province to swear and serve the people of Alberta with integrity and justice, and to uphold the Constitution, the rights and freedoms of all Albertans, and the laws of this province. This holds firmly with recall legislation. There's a reason they're putting that in. That's a win. Brittany says, yes vote passes. Mandate all levels of testing for Alberta's driver's licenses to be administered in English and French only. No more Jeep trucks crashing everywhere. Only certain levels are going to be able to test. They must show they can pass in English or French. So when these guys get pulled over, they can't say, oh no, understand, no, in English, no. Yeah, they're done. They're fed. They're gone. That's a huge win. Brittany then comes forward and says, big applause at the UCP AGM for resolution number 16. Acknowledge that there are only two biological sexes and accordingly provide male or female as exclusive options on official government documents. Danielle Smith vows to protect children but says adults are free to make their own decisions. I don't see an issue with that. I've said before, live your best life so long as you're not hurting anybody. But to which end do I have to participate in your delusionary behavior? This is all a win, folks, for Alberta, for Albertans. And this is why it is so critical in this very lengthy video to show that many people only see what the news covers. They only see what we talk about with, look what Danielle did, or look what so-and-so did, or look at the pushbacks from BC. You don't see the inner workings of what actually goes through multiple legislations with the United Conservative Party. This is where I say it is so beneficial to go to one of these AGMs. Again, I was a virgin to it this year. It was my first AGM. I will be at the next AGM and there on after, as long as it's not NDP driven. I don't think I could handle that. But for as long as the AGMs are going in the conservative direction, I will definitely make sure to be at those AGMs to vote through on policy that affects Alberta's future. When you look at the long list of all those yes votes we put through, could you imagine if independence was quickly included at the same time that those like Jeff Rath, which, again, very passionate about what he's doing. I know some people think it's brash. Form your own opinions, folks. But he's advocated for a single vote question on a referendum on Alberta independence. Could you imagine if it was thrown into the mix with all of those things? I understand now why there was a vote not to discuss independence. I'm glad Jeff brought it up. I'm glad it had a position at the AGM regardless, because it was beneficial. The MOU has surged membership within the APP, and many are saying this is all part of Danielle's plan. I'm standing neutral. I'm going to be Switzerland for a while, folks, and stand on the corner saying, I want to keep Alberta together, just as we said with Mike Freedom Honey, but at the same time, we keep a watchful eye on the province to make sure it's protected. I think that's the best move forward, while eyes on the prize for a vote through APP on Alberta independence. Let me know what you guys think about all of these great, new, fantastic legislations that are being put through, voted on by your members. Let me know if you think that you agree with Mike's and Berta Proud Dad's statements that we need to be focus driven, that Danielle really isn't doing that bad of a job when it comes to her actual job as premier, not necessarily advocating and jumping up and down for what we want her to say. If it's your first time here, this very lengthy video, I sincerely hope it's earned your subscriptions. There's been a lot of confusion during this time. Many people have jumped ship because they've said, well, you're going with Danielle and not against her. There's turmoil everywhere. People saying you're losing the plot. I'm hoping this really laid the foundation for people. I really hope that this puts a forward driving position on independence, because after all, folks, I am pro Alberta independence. I am pro Alberta, and I'm staying there, just looking at it with a wider lens. Hit that subscribe button if you feel the same. Leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. They're both very crucial to this video getting out, very crucial to those that maybe aren't aware of what was passed at the AGM to see it for themselves. So make sure to share it out on your socials, leave a thumbs up or a comment down below. Join me twice live every week on the channel for Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays with my new co-host Matt, Friday Night Fringe with the beautiful Mrs. Fringe, as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as Q&A and your feedback within the greatest community on the YouTube platform. I look forward to chatting with you guys each and every week, much like many of you I ran into at the AGM. I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this week, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.